Welcome to the Creative Tools Podcast. My name is Ashay, and I'm immensely passionate about using technology for creativity. On this podcast, I talk to various creators about what tools and technology they use to be creative. My guest today is Asmita Atre. Asmita is an engineer by profession and a self-taught artist by passion. As a student of science, engineering drawing was her most favorite subject. Colors have always fascinated her. In fact, her undergraduate background is in chemistry of colorants. Her art is inspired by nature and landscapes. Most of her art is in watercolor and a little in acrylic colors. But watercolor is her favorite choice for a painting. She likes experimenting with various tools, techniques, and mediums using watercolors. Watercolor landscapes on Yupo paper is her latest successful experiment. Hey Asmita, thanks a lot for visiting my podcast.
Thanks, Ashay, for giving me this opportunity to join your podcast and share my experiences and views.
Great. So my first question is, what do you create?
I create landscapes, mainly in watercolor and acrylic. So that's the medium that I prefer. And they are mainly naturescapes. So there are very little living figures in the artworks that I create.
Okay. So does it mean that your creations have always been physical that people can touch, or you have also worked in creating any digital creations?
No, I haven't done anything in digital creations. So all the artworks that I have done are either on paper or canvas.
Okay, great. So I want to section this interview into three parts. The
Mhm.
pre-creation part, where I want to mainly talk about inspiration, the creation part, where I want to talk about the actual creating of your paintings, and then post-creation, where we'll talk about release, distribution, and marketing. So let's talk about the first one, which is the pre-creation part. So my specific question in that is, um, how do you record and how do you retrieve your inspiration that you get for your creations?
Okay, that's a very good question. So that I will answer that in two parts. First is what inspires me to record a particular scene that I eventually convert into a painting. It's usually the color and the light that I see in nature. So the first thing is I observe that when I go around in nature for trekking or on a family vacation. And then if it is possible to sit there and do the painting live, that's the best thing that I like to do. But it doesn't allow me to do always that way because of a lot of weather constraints and other things. So in that case, I usually take a photograph on my mobile mostly, and then I do not apply any filters to the photograph that I take, and I try to soak in the light that I see by my eyes and try to remember it maximum. So if I'm trying to reproduce the same thing when I'm back in my studio, I'm able to do that. And the second part of the answer to this question is many a times try to tweak the light. Like I imagine how I would have liked to see that scene.
Hmm.
Like if I'm seeing a beach and I'm seeing it not at the time of sunset or sunrise, then I try to imagine how this scene would look at the time of sunset. And what if there were some clouds present and how the light would reflect from those clouds. And then I try to recreate the same scene on my paper using my imagination. So that is the step that I am taking these days in the nature scapes that I am making. So it's not always the reproduction of the photographs or what I see in the nature. It's about how my mind thinks when I see something in the nature.
Hmm. Hmm.
That's
But
the way of my thinking process.
So let's talk about the part where you said you cannot necessarily paint on the spot. So you have taken a picture, you have absorbed the light and probably the feeling that you are getting when
Yeah.
you saw that scene live. You come back to studio. Um, Even after coming back to studio, do you go directly to the studio once you have access to your studio and start creating it, or there is a time difference between when the inspiration hit you to your creation?
There is a time difference always, because I need to have the same mood
Correct.
to paint the thing that I saw. And if I'm not in a good mood, then the creation is not good. It
So how do you remember the mood that you had when you saw the scene live?
That's an interesting question. The mood just comes to me. Like I'm in a mood to paint. So I have certain photographs parked in a source photo. I have a source photo album ready. So
Okay.
whenever I have a mood to paint, I just open up the source photo album. Then I just pick up that photo, and then all the memories come back, like whatever it is. So that's one of the ways. Many a times I take photographs from my friends who have visited the places. So in that case, I have not seen that place at all myself, but still you can capture, and you can capture the beauty of the scene from the photo that my friend has clicked. And then totally how I feel about it is
Hmm.
the feeling that that I get from that photo, I try to reproduce on the paper.
Has it ever happened that the feeling that you had when you took the photo and then the feeling that you had when you wanted to create something for the photo, from the photo, are completely different?
Yes, many a times
Okay.
it happens that way. Yes.
Do you encourage that to take place, like the different feelings, or you would want to remember the feeling when you took the photo?
It depends on the outcome. If the
Okay.
outcome with whatever mood I create is good, I'm happy with it.
Hmm.
Because many a times when you go for naturescapes, you would have hiked a lot and you are tired already. So it
Right.
may not be, you have not soaked in all the beauty that you see around.
Hmm.
But when you are revisiting the photos, in that case, you can again remember how beautiful it was, and you can
Right.
have better feelings when you are actually creating the artwork. So that has also happened with me many a times.
So, I mean, one of the things that has happened with me with this podcast is I have learned a lot of tricks that people use to retrieve the inspiration in the exact form that they received it. I was talking to someone, and then he mentioned that when I receive the inspiration, when the inspiration hits me, I try to write down not just about the inspiration, but everything that's around me at that time, including like what I'm smelling at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So then when I read it later, then I can recreate the entire environment around
Mm-hmm.
me. Another person said that he always listens to music. Whenever the inspiration hits him, he tries to associate that environment to a particular music track in his album, and then save that track as a screenshot next to the image if he is capturing the image, so that he can go back and listen to the same music when he's creating and then he can remember the feeling. I was just curious, like, do you do any such tricks for you to retrieve the inspiration that you have recorded?
No, it's only just the photograph that I have
Hmm.
to, go back to or revisit the place in my mind. And to have a good mood while painting, I usually put on nice soothing music around
Hmm.
in my studio while I'm painting. So I sing alongside while I'm painting. So
Okay.
that, yeah, so that's the way how I create mood for myself.
And this music that you listen to, do you have any particular track, or you have different tracks for different moods?
Yeah, I usually listen to Indian classical music like Ragdari,
Hmm.
because that's the kind of music that I like.
Hmm.
So it could be anything, maybe ghazal or some nice thumri, or at times even bada khyal with lot of alapi and rag vistar also.
Hmm.
So people at times find me that what am I doing? I'm doing a painting and I'm listening this kind of music, that people find it very odd, but it gives me a very nice and peace of mind. So
Hmm.
for me, painting is actually a form of meditation, I would say,
Correct. Yeah. Most of
because
for most of the creators, creation is actually therapy for
yeah,
them to either escape from the current reality or create their own reality in some other world.
yeah, exactly.
Um, Great. And another question that I had was the photos that you have taken for the scenes that you want to create paintings from. Do you have any particular schedule that you follow to go through those photos, or it is only based on your mood to paint and then you look at the photos?
It's mainly based on my mood that I look at the photos and I paint. And many a times I set a goal for myself that
Yeah.
for these 6 months, maybe I want to focus on developing my skills to paint skies or
Hmm.
reflections or water, particularly because water bodies bring in totally different dynamics to a painting.
Hmm.
So, or mountains or foliage
Hmm.
or those kind of subjects. So, in that case, if I have set that kind of goal for myself, then in that case, I'm looking for those kind of photos only with different lights or in different seasons of the year, and accordingly then I will just focus on that particular area. And many a times what happens is, if I am focused too much on a skyscape, for example, in that case I will choose a little very simple foreground or the other aspects, like if I'm choosing a skyscape, then the mountains or water will be very simple. I will not
Hmm.
dwell or put in lot of
Hmm.
efforts
Hmm.
into creating the foreground or the
Hmm.
other objects in the painting.
Right.
My most focus would be sky, clouds, and the light that falls on them.
But then from the photos that you have taken, so you must have had like many photos on your
Yeah, I have
phone.
thousands of photos parked. Yeah.
So then,
So
do you tag them somehow? So I mean, how would you choose the sky related photos or water body related photos? I mean, do you?
I just no, I haven't tagged them or sorted them. I am not that organized with the reference photos. So I just scan through and
Okay,
like whatever appeals, I just pick it up. Like for
interesting.
last few months, my most focus was on snowscapes. So I did lot of snowscapes, and reflections on snows was my focus in all those paintings.
Hmm. Okay, great. I'm going to write this down because this is an interesting fact.
And in fact, like recently, I launched a calendar
Hmm.
which captures the moods of nature throughout the year in
Hmm.
various continents on the globe.
Hmm.
So I have tried to relate the paintings that I have made in last 2 to 3 years
Hmm.
to various months and what kind of moods exist in nature at various continents. Like
Hmm.
few are from China, few are from Japan, few are from the scenes that I have seen in the US, and some are from India.
Great. Um, Great, great discussion. Thanks a lot. I got a lot of insight. So let's now move our focus to the creation part. So for the creation, do you follow any kind? What is the process for you? And I'm mainly interested. I will tell you why, how tool and technology can help you in creating, even though you are not creating a digital painting. How it would help you is if you want to undo something that you have done, and then
Mhm.
probably uh, y- y- there would be a possibility with technology to pre-visualize your creation before you actually create on paper. So I don't know if you do anything like that, but I just would like to know, like when you are creating something, how do you make sure that the process is reversible and then you can undo some stuff uh, if you don't like what you have done.
This is like undoing something that I don't like is possible only if I'm doing things in acrylic. But
Okay.
with watercolors, it's like just trash the thing and get a new paper and start it all over again. So watercolor is totally unforgiving medium. And since my mind is trained to watercolors, I try to follow the same process in acrylic, that just be right in the first place. Like every time you touch your brush to the paper or canvas, think twice before you do that. So that's how my mind has got trained now. So undoing is not even, I don't do undo even in case of acrylics anymore.
But would you like to have that ability to undo, or do you in
Definitely.
Okay, I mean, my question was, I mean, do you like not undoing, and which is also okay. I mean, thinking twice and then training your mind so that training your brain so that you have to think twice before you put brush on paper could be something that you would enjoy as a creator. So I'm just asking, would you like to undo?
Definitely. See, now I have tried doing digital paintings using Artrage,
Hmm.
and Artrage has tools by which you can make a painting similar to watercolor. So
Hmm.
it looks like a watercolor, but it's a digital painting, and in that you can definitely undo some part if you don't like it. So it's a good thing to do, but I don't enjoy it as much as I enjoy doing it with the colors, the water, and the paper, the physical things that I use, basically
Hmm.
my easel, my palette, and other things. Because it would sound like a child, but I like to play with colors.
Hmm.
So that is possible only if the colors and paper is physically available.
Right. Right. Correct. So
So the
the
enjoyment comes from those physical things, basically.
Yeah. So the reason I am asking this question is when I talked to a couple of painters in my podcast, some said that uh, they go back and forth between digital and physical. So even though they are the final creation is physical, they let's say they sketch the idea on paper, then they take a picture of it, put it in their iPad or computer, try something, some color, some combinations on that sketch first digitally so that they can undo, and then recreate
Hmm.
that in the physical world.
In person.
Then again take a picture of that. So they paint layers after layers after layers on their painting, and in every stage, even every layer is finished, they take a picture, go back to digital, try something, and then come back. And that is something that the process that they have started following. I have also
Hmm.
talked to some painters where the artist said that if she doesn't like what she has done, she don't want to undo. She enjoys the process of creating something new from that thing that happened on paper. So that's why I was asking, like, would you like to undo, and if you want to, how would you go about it?
Hmm. See, I am doing these new experiments. So there is a paper called UPO paper. It's a synthetic paper, so it doesn't absorb any pigment. So the pigment stays on the paper. So how much
Ah.
ever you imagine how you want to make a art, the paper is not going to allow you to do it. So the last point that you mentioned, that whatever effect you finally get, you can only try to tweak a little here and there and still try to make something beautiful out of it.
Hmm.
So I enjoy that process a lot. And in fact, this year, that is 2023, that's going to be my goal, to do experiments with UPO paper using different densities of watercolor and how the color behaves on the paper. And I really control the flow of color on that paper to get what I have in my mind uh, on the paper actually, or
Hmm.
I just have to enjoy how the colors are behaving on the paper. So I want to do that as a practice more and more, to come to a conclusion whether UPO can be trained to how you want your artwork to look like, or it's just the paper that will decide what the final outcome will be.
Hmm. Uh, and I just want to make another comment here. I started this very recently for my own ideas. Is I physically write my ideas, the ideas that I get in my head every single day. I physically write them in the notebook. And let's say I have 5 ideas today, and I could only create from 3 of them. So 2 are left, right?
Mm.
So next day, what I do is I would get new ideas next day, right? But I would rewrite the first 2 ideas first in next
Mm-hmm.
day, and then write the next new ideas later. So what that makes me do is rethink about the ideas that I had not created with the earlier day, and validate those ideas in my head, so that it asks me the question again when I'm rewriting them is, do you really want to create this? If you want to do, if you don't want to create it, don't write it, right? So
Okay.
uh, if I take this analogy to painting, if you had to destroy, like
Mm-hmm.
you did something that you didn't like, and then you had to destroy, and you had to recreate that thing, it might help you rethink about the creation again, and then something new might come out from that process. So has it ever happened with you like this?
Yes, this has happened with me, but very rarely, because if I have messed up a painting, and then in most of the cases, I haven't done anything about it again. I have just trashed the idea entirely.
Okay.
Unless the photo was too good and it was too challenging, and then I was, I have to do this and I need to know how to do this. Only then, and that has happened only in case of one or two paintings so far.
Hmm.
But if the painting has not turned out the way I wanted it to be, I have just tracked the photo and that painting and entire idea there and there
Hmm.
itself.
Hmm.
Like, haven't reattempted the same thing again.
Okay. And another thing that I really feel with digital technology, what it has given creators is, it has given creators an ability to make a choice rather than a decision. Like, for example,
Yes.
earlier when the creations were analog, if you put a stroke of paint on a canvas, if you want to try a different color, or if you want to try a different form of that stroke, you had to create it separately on another canvas. So the art was inherently destructive. But when
Yeah.
digital technology came along, you could do a digital stroke, you could copy it, change
Yeah.
its form, change its color, and now you have a choice between the two very quickly. You can create, you
Yeah.
can do a choice rather than making a decision to create.
Yes.
Have you ever put yourself in a situation where you want to have choice for your creation, rather than making this decision before brush touches on paper, uh, to um, uh, to decide how you want to do it?
Yes, I have been in that kind of a situation. Uh, And in that case, there are physical tools available to do that. Like, even though I haven't used digital techniques to do that, but
Hmm,
in case of a watercolor, if I go wrong in some shade, or if the shade turns out too dark
hmm,
and I want to make it lighter, in that case, I use color lifting techniques, which are wet brush can lift the color from
hmm,
the paper.
hmm,
Just a light stroke of wet brush can lift the color from paper. Or if I want to make it little darker, you can just add a little denser
hmm,
pigment, then you are sorted. If you want to altogether change the shade, not like, make it dark
hmm,
or light, then you can just wipe it out with a simple cotton rag.
hmm,
That is
hmm,
possible in case of watercolor only once,
hmm.
not twice or thrice, because then paper starts to deteriorate.
Right.
In case of acrylic, you can wipe the sheet any number of times that you want.
Hmm.
So in that case, I don't need to use another canvas and waste that canvas to,
Okay.
get the perfect shade that I want. If I'm making a portrait, then this applies much more thoroughly, because the skin tone has to match the skin tone of the
Hmm.
person I'm trying to reproduce. In that case, I definitely need another canvas where I try to uh, make a tonal study of the face that I am trying to paint.
Hmm. Hmm.
And in that case, what you said, digital technology would definitely help, but I haven't used that ever,
Hmm. Hmm.
because I have done very little work in portraits so far.
Hmm. Great. Um, So now let's move our focus to the post creation part. So now you have created your creations. So how do you release, distribute, and market your creations?
Uh, I take a good quality high resolution photograph, or I get it scanned from a really good high resolution scanner available here in Pune, where I stay. That is one thing. I have an Instagram account and my website as well. I also have a YouTube channel where I have started recording the process of my
Hmm,
creation.
hmm, hmm.
The like from the paper, then I make a sketch, then I do the first layer, the second layer, the third layer, and then final finishing touches, and the techniques that I use, all those I try to record. So I have a small recording setup here, and this recording doesn't happen in one go, because uh, I just stop the recording and then I stitch the various records that I
Hmm.
make throughout the process of creation, and then I do the video editing and adjust also the speed, because the
Right.
actual painting might take 2 hours, but then releasing a 2 hour video would be
Correct.
very boring for people. So I just change the speed of the recording. So there the digital technology comes in. Then I add a soothing music to the entire video, so that the creators feel more engaged with the process that I'm trying to show through the video. And then I have started putting that on my YouTube channel, because in last few months many people have started asking me which technique have you used, because from the various painters and various artists that I have followed, I have picked up many tricks and techniques from them. I try to blend those and create a style of my own to achieve a certain effect.
Hmm.
So that I have started reproducing the in the videos that I make these days.
So now let me go a little bit more specific. So first question, release. So how do you know that you have finished a painting?
It's just the intuition,
Okay.
because that's the uh, is the feeling that you get that. And it's a tricky situation, because
Correct.
overdoing any painting can just damage it.
Yeah.
So you just need to have a look at it, and if you feel good about it, just stop there.
Hmm.
And usually after I sign a painting, I don't do anything on that.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
so putting a final signature is the end of it.
Okay. When you finish your creations, do you maintain any kind of catalog or anything of your paintings
Yes,
somewhere, and in
yes.
which form?
I take a photograph, and I have a catalog. I have a digital catalog of all the paintings. I have done coding. Each painting bears a unique code. So
Hmm.
if I have put up all the paintings for sale. So if somebody wants to buy a particular painting, they can just send me a message with the code, so that I can have a discussion with them if they want a frame to be done, or
Hmm.
whatever, or whatever thing they want to have with the painting. So that becomes easy. And this digital catalog is maintained in Excel. So I have about 300 plus paintings, and with size of the painting I have various display books, and on the back of the painting I usually write the paper that I have used, the date on which it is created, its size, and the title. All these things are written by pen on the back side of the painting.
So you
So
have
that,
the various books depending
yes,
on the size of the painting,
size,
and in
yes,
addition to that, you have an Excel spreadsheet where you have
right.
maintained the catalog. Okay. Um, and let's talk a little bit about the social media. So you said you have an Instagram account and you have a YouTube account. Do you follow any particular schedule or discipline to release your uh, posts on those social media platforms?
Unfortunately, no. I am quite sketchy with that. For a few months I would be totally off from all the social media posts, because unless I find the painting worthy of going on social media, I don't do that.
Hmm.
And I don't create a painting just because I have to put it on social media somewhere.
Correct. Yeah.
That's why it takes uh, infrequent things to actually post the painting on social media.
Hmm. Right. Uh, yeah, that's a very good comment that you just mentioned. See, the social media things, it only rewards you if you're consistent. However, if
Yes.
you let the consistency dictate your creations, your quality of creations goes down.
Right.
You instead of frequency dictating your creations should dictate the frequency. So,
Exactly. Exactly. It
um,
cannot be quantity over quality. It has to be quality over quantity. And
yeah.
for me, my every painting is a new experiment.
Hmm.
And the thing that I'm still not doing, but I would like to do is I want to describe more about the experiment that has gone into making of that
Yeah,
painting.
correct, correct.
I have still not started writing blogs about these things.
Hmm.
And like very few blogs I have written about how I think
Yeah,
about my creations. But
yeah.
I want to do more about that in the coming year now.
Yeah, actually, that's a great point because I also feel the same way that what people see is the final creation, which is like in my
Yes,
case, the film. But there is
yes,
tremendous amount of thinking
exactly,
that goes
exactly.
into making that, and I'm not necessarily thinking about the film when I'm thinking about the topic or the subject. Like
Right,
film is just one manifestation of my thinking. There could be several other things. Like I might have thought about an audio episode, I might have thought about a blog, I might have thought about an
uh,
image, I might have thought about some physical creation, which eventually came together into a film.
yeah,
But I actually have thought a lot of other things, and I would love to share those too. Like I don't want to
exactly.
only share the final creation.
Yeah,
So that's another, actually, that's a good point that you mentioned. I also have the same goal next year. I want to share several other things that I think about rather than just
yeah.
my final creations. That's great. Um, so one question is, what is the biggest challenge you face in your creation process? And when I say creation process, I mean right from the inspiration to this social media publishing. Like, what is the biggest challenge you think you have in your creation?
Finding time to actually reproduce all that I have in my mind is the biggest challenge that I face these days. As well as there are other technical things, like if I am outdoor and I am in a mood to paint, but there are other stringent conditions, like it's too sunny, I cannot sit there, or if it's raining, but the mood is good. These are the kind of challenges that I face when I'm in a mood to create.
Hmm. And what have you done to solve those challenges?
Nothing much actually.
Okay. Um, we Let's talk about little bit about digital technology. So, in your creation process, how has digital technology impacted your creation process, even in a good way or a bad way? I mean, what do you think is something that you got when you started uh, experimenting with digital technology for anything that you do in your creation process?
Yeah, earlier when I used to paint, I used to take a printout of the reference photograph and mount it on my easel.
Okay.
Nowadays, I just put my phone on display never off mode,
Hmm.
and I try to recreate that. So it saves a lot of effort of doing a good quality color print. And
Hmm.
many a times color printer doesn't reproduce the colors that are actually present in the photograph, or
Hmm.
even the smallest details do not come in the good quality print many a times.
Hmm.
And the photo helps me zoom out if I want to observe some minute details in a landscape somewhere, like a
Right.
cityscape maybe. If I'm painting a narrow lane somewhere and I want to see what all small objects are present in that particular lane, then just zooming out that digital photographs makes it very easier.
Hmm.
With the physical photograph, this that was not possible at all.
Hmm.
And then some details which might be interesting in a subject that I'm painting would just get missed out.
Okay. And for social media, I want to talk about, because that is another thing with digital technology that we use these days. Um, is I mean, what I have seen is these days, if you want to be a creator, you can't just be a creator. You also need to know how to edit videos. You also need to know how to
Yes,
take pictures. How also need to know how which hashtags to use and blah blah blah.
yes.
So, how have you solved that uh, problem in whichever form? But like for example, do you enjoy editing videos, or you do it because you want to uh, publish on YouTube?
I do it. I do enjoy that process, but I do it because I want to publish it on YouTube, and then
Hmm.
that has to be a good quality work. That's why
Hmm.
I try to do it in a honest and proper way. Uh, for video editing, I'm using a very primitive tool, Windows Movie Maker. That's what I use for video editing, and for photography, I use Office Lens because that can capture a good quality image with all borders properly in place. Otherwise,
Hmm.
if I take a photograph, then sometimes if the angle is not proper, then
Hmm.
the painting would looks little distorted. And
What is
what was your
Office Lens?
second?
I had never heard about this.
Microsoft Office Lens. Office 365 has a tool.
Okay.
It's an app on iPhone, even on Android phone, it is there. So I
Huh.
use that. Like Adobe Scan, if you're familiar with, it's
Okay.
similar to that.
Oh, okay.
But
Yeah, I didn't know that. Okay.
yeah, Office Lens captures images really well.
Okay.
Like Adobe Scan is more for making PDFs and all. So it
Hmm.
doesn't capture
Oh,
pictures
okay.
really well.
Okay. Okay.
So I that's
Yeah.
why for that I use Office Lens.
Okay. Interesting. Um, Last question. What is your vision for your creations going forward? By looking at the tools and technology that you see around you, do you see yourself creating in a different manner? And not just creating the paintings, doing anything like recording the inspiration, publishing on social media, or actually creating the painting. Do you see yourself doing something different in future by using technology
Yes,
around you?
yes. My purpose of doing the art is to gain happiness for myself
Hmm.
as well as spread happiness through what I create. So that's the precise reason why I released a calendar this year.
Hmm.
Next year, I intend to use the paintings that I create to make a fitness calendar,
Hmm.
for which I'm going to consult a physiologist here in Pune, and I'm going to create a calendar which will help people maintain their physique throughout, and it should be a inspiring thing
Hmm.
that making a note of what you did every day for your fitness
Hmm.
is an enjoyable process. So that
Hmm.
is how the calendar has to be. So that's the thing that I'm going to work on. And the UPO experiments that will be
Hmm.
done next year would mostly feature on that calendar is what my idea is.
Hmm.
So this is first time I'm going to work on a project throughout the year. Earlier, I have never done anything like that.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
So that's I don't set up a very long term goals. My
Hmm.
goals are usually very short term, like 1 year or 6 months down the line.
Hmm.
If I'm able to achieve that, I'm happy. And finally, I'm creating this art just for happiness. So I do not engage myself with any activity which would kill that happiness at any point. So that's why I do not participate in any painting competitions
Hmm.
or art competitions or anything like that. Or I don't even offer my creativity for commissioned work,
Okay. Yeah.
because that is one thing which will dictate me, because somebody else would have made a thought of the art that he or she wants,
Hmm.
and I may not be able to do justice to what
Hmm.
they want.
Hmm.
So that's why I do not do any commissioned art. I do
Hmm.
whatever I do, and then if people are happy to buy that, they can buy it.
Hmm.
That's my way of thinking.
Yeah. Great. Uh, Thanks a lot, Asmita, for talking with me. I really enjoyed talking with you.
Thanks, Ashay. Even I enjoyed talking to you.
Thanks for tuning in. If you are a creator, I would love to talk with you. Please connect with me through my website or social media. See you in the next episode.